I think it's very concerning, but I think the issue is deeper than just the discipline rates. I think what we need to look at is what's happening in some of those communities, some of those schools, some of how are our teachers being trained to go into those classrooms and deal with different kinds of situations. I think it's very concerning.
How closely is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education looking at suspension data specifically, and who in the department is responsible for looking at that data?
So most of what's happening at the school level truly is a local decision, and what we know is that discipline looks very different in every school. And what is, if you're talking about disproportionality, we do run various reports on that, but it's really most effective when the building leaders themselves look at the disproportionality and try to understand why is this happening with this certain group.
And let's stay there, because the department doesn't control what discipline policies are, and we know that there's wide levels of discretion within individual districts' discipline policies, let alone how those discipline policies play out at a building level. Do there need to be stronger standards for what constitutes certain kind of violations and what the consequences for those violations are in the state of Missouri?
You know, I think again, we're seeing more and more knowledge about how zero tolerance policies work in some cultures and climates, not so well in others. And so, you know, I think that's something that the individual boards have looked at that said, you know what, zero tolerance policy is not effective for our school district, and they've tried to think and seek out other interventions. Are we there yet? We are not. But again, I still have some confidence in our local school boards that they're going to continue to make really good decisions for their kids once they're aware of the issue. Awareness of the issue is half of the battle, an acknowledgement of the fact that there is an issue. And I think for so long, many in our state have said there's really not an issue. I mean, if you would have asked 5 years ago about implicit bias, I think you would get a lot different response than you're getting today, simply because of all of the really powerful discussion that's taken place in the last year and a half since the Ferguson.
But back to this very specific question as to whether or not there need to be clearer state standards on different types of violations and what the potential consequences are for those violations. Are you in favor of that, or are you not in favor of that?
I think we can establish the policies of what needs to happen on a statewide. The specific individual standards, I still believe that our local boards are most empowered to make the decisions for what happens in those districts.
You brought up the Ferguson report earlier. One of the recommendations in that report, as you know, is to get rid of out-of-school suspensions for pre-K through third grade students. Is that something the state needs to take a look at? I know that the department can't itself put out that mandate, but is that something that the department needs to go talk to the folks, just across the street in the Capitol about putting together something legislatively?
Yeah, I think our first step is to talk with educating our local boards and what that looks like and how that works. I think, again, the research is becoming more and more clear that to put a child out on the street after they're really, a lot of times when they're acting out, it's due to toxic stress, it's due to some of these overly cumbersome issues that they're dealing with. And so that is even more harmful for kids, and to put them out.
But should out-of-school suspensions be given to students under third grade and under?
No, I personally do not believe that they should be given out-of-school suspensions unless it's just something that absolutely, I mean, there are some safe school violations that are required by law. But if we're really looking at the benefit of the individual child, our children are much better served if they go into if it's that extreme, that they go into some kind of an intervention and not simply just put out on the street.
A lot of educators I talk to, even those who are open and have thought about race, and I'm thinking in particular about white educators who have thought about race in very profound and personal ways, say it's difficult and it's uncomfortable. What can schools do to make a safe place where this conversation can happen, where a teacher isn't afraid of saying something wrong?
Again, educate. And for me, it's really about, the expression of walking in each other's shoes for a while. You got to be side by side. Talk will only get us so far, but it's really coming together to work for the common purpose that's going to break through those barriers.